Hi, I'm Rachel, and
I'm Christy.
And we are going to bring tales from our fans and friends of what they have entered and share their spooky experiences with you. And then we are going to rate them to 1 to 10 ghouls.
So our first tale is brought to you by, are we sharing names or are we just going off of, are we changing the name?
We can do first name.
Okay, so your first tale is brought to you by Mrs. S.N. So Mrs. S.N. tells us about a story out in the area of Lewis and Clark. So if you're in the Lewis and Clark area sometime, maybe you'll want to visit this and maybe you'll have a spooky experience of your own. This tale says that once me and my friend Travis, we'll leave out any other names, we'll just say a J name, another J name, another A name. Well, they were all out there and they're hanging out and they had a fun night of ghost hunting. So that's pretty cool. They were out at the Lewis and Clark Church probably around 10:30 or 11 o'clock. And they had been in the Astoria area ghost hunting and it had been pretty quiet, so they decided to pull over in the parking lot across from the church. It was closest to the Lewis and Clark Cemetery. While they were sitting there, Travis yells out, "If you're here, let it be known." Immediately, all of their cell phones, all 5 of their cell phones, shut down and then restarted.
At the same time.
All at the same time.
Did it say it all at the same time?
Let's see. So, if you're in, let it be known. Immediately after, all 5 of our cell phones shut down.
There was like a huge energy zap.
Boop.
What? How are you supposed to record with all your phones zapped?
Right?
Thanks a lot, Ghost.
They're tricky like that. Yeah, right? If you want to speak to them, sometimes you can speak to them through a light, and sometimes they're just like, we're going to let you be known, but we're not going to let you have any proof of this situation, other than the stories that we now retell to you.
Tricky fish.
Oh. So we had other people that actually commented back on this, so they remember the situation. They were within the same area.
These are actually members that were within the group that actually remembered this experience. So, Katie, Miss SN, I feel like I saw you guys night after this. That was a good one. I miss ghost hunting. Miss KW was out with a group. The radio went crazy too. Ghost hunting was the best.
Oh, see, so reliving some amazing times in this area. So there
were definitely Katie was definitely remembering about something that was like, I remember like seeing you guys the night after, and she also had the experience of a weird electronic thing. That's interesting. I didn't really put that together. I was just excited that we had some entries. I'm like, oh my god, yay!
Yeah, so you guys can still enter too. I mean, we're going to do some more stories all the way up until Halloween. We want to get your stories out. We're going to throw a couple of our own in there, of course. Got to do some love back. That wasn't a heart. We'll go hard again.
Oh, I am sorry.
Aw.
It's just pouring out of my eyeball.
Oh, well, you're like hidden with your hair.
Little dip. Yeah. Oh, we're like.
But that's an absolutely wonderful story.
That was a really cool
cool
experience that these gals had, and with their buddy Travis. Like, hell yeah.
Right? His name was mentioned twice, so I had to throw his name out there. Since he was the one that was yelling, I was like, okay, we're gonna say his name.
Next time, tag the homie. Because that's really cool, and thank you so much for entering your story, and it was a real privilege to share your stories. And if you actually would like to, please go ahead and enter your stories. We actually plan on doing ghost stories and spooky tales of sharing your stories, and all through the year, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be just Halloween. It's just that our veil's thinner at this time frame, so people tend to reconnect with those kind of stories.
Let's do this. Let's do it. Dun, 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 dun.
Alright, on that one, we're going to sign off on this one, and we're going to get...
If letter SN's story entry, I would have to say I want to rate that one between 1 and 10 ghouls a solid 9, because it was fairly descriptive, though I also would have liked to hear a little more details of like was it all at the same time, and what was the setting, you know, like, obviously you're in the car, but it's like just little tiny things. I wanted to hear more because it was like another hook line of, I want to know more. But either way, that was
more.
a solid
so we
9.
can tell more.
Solid 9 ghouls, because that was like everyone's phones were shutting off. So it's like, okay. Even though you guys were very, like, you're descriptive, it was quiet. You weren't really getting anything, and all of a sudden you were just like, boom, all our phones shut off.
Yeah.
That's trippy.
That was definitely an answer back for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I get the 10 for the trippy level on that one, because I could feel like the chill. I got that like
I definitely got the energy, like my feels on it. That was like authentic, totally an experience. You weren't anticipating it. And that's the one thing that surprised you enough to remember it forever.
Right? Especially when he's calling out and he's like, just like jokingly a little bit, but you guys were ghost hunting, so you know you definitely
honestly,
wanted to hear something. So to get the echo back is always like, they spoke to me.
Solid. Definitely. Good story all the way around. And thank you for entering your story. We have our next spooky entry by Miss Katie, an experience that she actually had. And it was, I had this guy come into the house who was talking about demons and how he was abused as a kid. Then for a week straight, I kept hearing the broken glass. It was the exact same sound every time, and I could feel something around. A week later, I dropped a glass, and the breaking was the sound I heard for a week. So that sounds like almost like an intellectual energy of some kind that was like giving you a warning or some kind of like, this is what you're going to hear to know I'm there kind of energy. Like
poltergeisty vibes almost.
A little bit.
Yeah. And a lot of the time when you can get a lot of motion like that and a lot of force, the sound, that was something that you heard for a week. I wonder if that was like the release of that energy too, maybe.
It very well could be like how they was almost like deja vu, premeditated, but like it seemed like there wasn't a description of like how far away she was from the glass or the surroundings of the glass. So maybe I will give this a 6 out of 10 ghouls, because I feel like there's just a little bit more to. Like
we need some more depth to this
just
story.
A little detail, but the experience, I would say 10 ghouls for sure, because that is trippy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I solidly think 10 ghouls for experience, but 6 ghouls on the detail. Like, there's just some pieces I would have loved to know, like what was around the glass, you know, and what happened directly after, like when you cleaned it up. Was there some other things? But if that was it, I mean, that's really cool. Like, if that was the only experience after, because it's like, poltergeist is almost like also what our own energies do when it's somewhat suppressed and you could be very stressed out and you are empathic and you actually do energetically can have another energy force it, and it's actually your own energy.
Right.
So there's different versions of poltergeist, and none of them are inaccurate, but there's just good ideas too, as a little suggestion of like, maybe it was a time that you were stressed, especially after it was a kid that came to your house, or a guy that had described that he has been abused in his childhood. Yeah. That's some heavy stuff, so absolutely. But either way, thank you so much for entering your story. That was really awesome, and definitely out of like just the experience of what you were describing, 10 ghouls, because that was some juicy stuff. But either way, I would have loved to hear more about it. But don't worry, guys, even if you have a story and you want to beef it up, please re-enter it, and we'd be happy to add to it and re-evaluate it and give you a rating of 1 to 10 ghouls. So it's like we're totally open for you guys sharing your ghosty stories.
More.
What would you rate that one?
I would definitely give it, I would say an 8. I think that it's got great content. I think that maybe, like I said, I want more details. I want to know what else was going on, because you have this guy.
You already got us hooked in it.
You got us hooked on this story, but then I'm like, I want more. So, yeah.
It definitely is now like, it's going to have to be a part 2 now. Thanks a lot, Katie. Thank you. But also, really, we do appreciate you entering your experience. That was amazing. Thank you very much. Now on to the next one. Hi.
Hi.
Now we have our next spooky experience entry from Ms. Dominic. Now we're going to do our best because we feel like some pieces are a little bit missing in the story, but nonetheless, we are sharing her experience. So, it says, when my dad died suddenly, not expecting my microwave changing times 2 times, like, so I'm guessing it's like, was consistently changing times. Like, it looked like what she is describing is it was switching numbers in the screen. And let's see. Never cooked in the microwave. My kid kept telling me, Mom, look, it changed again. I honestly was freaked out. I burnt my white candles, said my blessings and prayers or whatever I needed to. I wanted to say to my dad and it stopped. My dad, I called Father's Day. His phone didn't have his voicemail like normal. So I'm guessing this is like an additive memory to an experience. So I think this was prior to his passing, like before his passing on. So let's see here. I wanted to say to my dad and it stopped. My dad, I called Father's Day. His phone didn't have his voicemail like normal. My siblings flew to Florida. His body had not been claimed and too far gone to determine death. And my stepmom had been placed in hospice, skin cancer into the brain cancer. Damn, my condolences, Lovey. And she refused to see anyone. I did not get to go with when this happened. And I do believe Spirit was in the house because my son kept pointing out to the microwave. So it seems very significant that after these events were happening, you were remembering like the microwave was like the indicator of the sudden weird change that when you're not cooking in it at all, it was tweaking out and changing numbers. That is creepy. Okay. And before I could walk away, when it changed times, and yes, I saged my house, lol, but felt there was energy in my home. Yeah, definitely. I am going to give that a solid 9 out of, like, 1 out of 10 ghouls, a 9 ghoul, because that was, like, real close to home, and I really appreciate you sharing a personal experience like that, and just being that open, and having that one common theme of when events were happening in such a drastic way, like your mom falling ill, and your dad being claimed.
Be interesting to know what the numbers in the microwave were.
Yeah, I'm curious too. Like,
because she says that, you know, it changed times and it was a time that you never cooked at. So it wasn't like you had stopped it and it was at a certain time, or that the clock just kept resetting. It was a very significant time. I wonder if it was the same time.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, was it like, 1010 or whatever, what was the number that you were seeing on the microwave? Like, that would have been really interesting to add to your story. And if you'd like, we probably would be happy to share that someday. But like, I definitely a really 9 ghouls for that one, because that is like, even your child is pointing at the microwave and you're not near it, you're not cooking around it whatsoever. So that's a trip. And it's obviously like the presence there was obviously, for me, I feel like it was your dad, and saying, hey baby girl, there's something going on, and with you. And even though you're cleansing it, it still happened, and it wasn't like a negative energy because your son was pointing at it. And I'm not sure how your son's reaction really was, other than just pointing. So it's like, was he afraid, or was he just noticing, like, that's really weird, Mom, what the heck is going on? And obviously for good reason, because that's a really great story. And thank you so much, Dominic. That was amazing. Please feel free to share more of your guys' stories. We'll keep adding more through our content and sharing other people's spooky experiences.